Really happy with how it looks, and like I said, I was not expecting perfection or else I would probably be disappointed. I hope you're having a great day. So this video, I'm going to be working in the kitchen and I'm going to be working on my countertops. I've seen this done a few times. One YouTuber that I follow has actually done this a few different times in different homes, and so I'm guessing it must not be too bad or else she wouldn't keep using this hack. So I am going to be covering my countertops with this marble print shelf liner. Now I've already tested it out in one area of my kitchen by my microwave and it has held up just fine. So now I'm ready to tackle the rest of the kitchen and we'll see how that holds up. So that's what I'm working on in this video. Let's get started. So I started by removing everything off of the countertop and then wiping it all down. I knew I really needed a clean surface before I started this project, and then I started attaching the shelf liner. And as you can see, I fold the backing down. Most of the time when I use an adhesive shelf liner or wallpaper, I fold the backing down just a little bit to get started, and then I'll slowly pull the backing away as I go. And I left quite a bit of an overlap on the front to make sure I had enough to cover the front edge of the countertop. So I had hoped to use one continuous piece of shelf liner along the countertop, and I think it could definitely be done, but that was going to take a lot more time and probably more patience than I wanted to give this project. So I just cut it where it had seams on each side of the sink, and I felt like that was a lot easier to work with that way. And then I used some small scissors just to cut around the sink. A sharp X-Acto knife definitely would have been a lot better, but I did not have one on hand. Mine was super dull. It was out in my studio. I knew it wasn't going to be much help anyway, so I didn't even bother going to get it. So if I did this project again, I would definitely make sure I had a sharp X-Acto knife. So besides using scissors, I also used my Cricut scraper tool. I used that to help smooth out the shelf liner and get close to the edges. And then I also used a yardstick just to help me in cutting the shelf liner down to size, because not all the grid on the back goes completely across the paper. So I just kind of used it as a guide to help me cut the shelf liner down to size for the back part of the countertop. And then I also end up using it in the corner when I do my seam later on in the video. In finishing covering my countertop, I started by placing the shelf liner along the very back near the backsplash, and I was going to work my way down, but I found personally it was easier to line it up with the shelf liner that was already on the countertop and work my way back. So that's how I ended up doing it in the end. So in figuring out how I wanted to make this seam in the corner of the countertop, I decided to mimic the actual countertop seam. So I just used my yardstick to trace that line, and then I cut the shelf liner to that size, and I think it looks really good. I think it definitely looks more natural this way than if I would have done it a little bit differently. So I'm really happy with how that's looking. And then here's a look at the mess that I have going on in the kitchen. Hey guys, so it's actually the next day. My camera battery needed charged. My family came home. I just finished up and decided to pick the camera back up today. One thing I wish I would have waited on was getting a new X-Acto knife. I do have one. It's very dull. It's out in my glass studio, so I didn't bother going to get it. It's been raining on and off, and I just knew it wasn't going to be much help, so I just used scissors and my Cricut scraper tool, and it actually went pretty well. And so that's one thing I would definitely do differently. And of course I had patience, and I didn't go into this expecting perfection. I've worked with self-adhesive wallpaper and shelf liner enough to know not to expect it to be perfect, but overall I'm really happy with how it looks and how it turned out. And I'll turn the camera around and show you how it's looking. In fact, I told my husband, now I know what kind of countertops I want in the future. I definitely want a lighter countertop, and I really like how it brightens up the kitchen. So let me show you how it looks. So I don't know if you can see this in the camera or not, but there is a seam that goes right along here where I had to use 2 pieces because it wasn't wide enough to cover the entire countertop. Also in the corner, I put the seam right here because that's where the original seam was on the countertop, and it just looked better than having one long piece here and a seam going across. It looked more natural to have it in the corner. So I went ahead and did that. And of course, my corners are not perfect, as you can see here, but actually I think they turned out really good. And I did end up with seams near the sink because it was just too hard to make one continuous piece, but I think it turned out really good. Happy with how it looks, and like I said, I was not expecting perfection, or else I would probably be disappointed because it is far from perfect. It's not something I consider permanent. It was more of a fun experiment to change up the countertops and brighten up this space, and I think it did just that, and I really like how it looks. So I'm definitely going to be looking into countertops as well as a sink and a faucet. I'd like to change all of those things up eventually. So somewhere down the road I will be working on that. But for right now, I'm just gonna enjoy this new look and see how it holds up. If you'd like to hear updates on how it's holding up, then just let me know in the comments. I hope you enjoyed this video. I know it's a little bit different, but thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.